I'm your host Rob, and today we'll be reading What is the Story of Death in Your School? When I was 16, one of the kids 2 grades younger than me got raped and subsequently murdered by a child molester one weekend. It was a big school, so I can't say I ever personally knew anything about her, but it pretty much shocked everyone that it happened. A girl in my school accidentally shot herself in the head while she was joking around with a gun. She thought she was holding an unloaded one. She died on the spot before the ambulance could get to her. Her sister was in a room with her, and she's getting treated for PTSD. I had a classmate who was also my boyfriend who died in a plane crash just a few weeks after we graduated high school. He was loved by everyone in class, and we even made a large crowdfund in class to get him a graduation cap. Well, the Danish equivalent thereof. They're crazy expensive, and he couldn't afford one, so we all got together and bought him one for him as a surprise. Loads of people showed up for the funeral, from classmates to former teachers. It was absolutely devastating to have lost such an amazing guy. When I was in high school, a kid accidentally died when he crashed a 4x4 while drunk. He was a football player, very popular, good looking, and overall someone that made the school look good. After his death, the school had flyers, an assembly, a moment of silence, a slideshow celebrating his life, etc. Basically, they went all out for him. But about a year later, another kid died. He killed himself because of his mental illness and how much he was bullied. However, after his death, the school did nothing for him. No flyers, no slideshow, no moment of silence, nothing. They believed that if people found out that he killed himself because of how he was treated in their school on their watch, it would make them look bad. So they tried to keep it quiet and let it blow over. The people got pissed at the school for handling the 2 deaths differently just to protect their image. After a couple of days, the only thing the school did was announce the date of his funeral. No moment of silence, nothing. The junior class held a memorial by themselves with no aid from the school. No one from the faculty showed up. Needless to say, no one respects that fussing crap hole anymore. Hit by a student in a car in the park. It was a dark time for the school, as it wasn't the driver's fault, as the kid ran out in front and the driver was only doing 5 miles per hour, where he hit the kid, who then hit the temple on a curb. There was a witch hunt for the driver in school until they released a video footage from one of the security cameras that basically absolved him. Imagine if there were no cameras. I went to a school where the academic pressure was effing insane. 2 kids killed themselves and cited the pressure as their reason for doing it. Teachers gave us all lectures on not putting too much pressure on ourselves before assigning the usual crazy amount of homework. There were a few student deaths when I was in high school, but the teacher death that happened hurt the most. The summer before my senior year of high school, the band teacher died from an unexpected heart attack. It was a really hard time. Most of us knew him since the 4th grade or earlier. Since my school district was tiny, he taught both elementary school band and high school band. And he was the one who gave the woodwind and percussion lessons. We got a new band leader at the start of the year, very young. Though he was married with a kid, he seemed great and supportive, and he pushed us to play our band's favorite song better than we had ever had before. Then halfway through the year, he disappeared. Turns out he was sleeping with a junior. When I was younger, there was this Vietnamese family that lived a few houses from us. I was friends with their kids. The father was an abusive, unemployed alcoholic who would regularly beat their kids. One night he came home from drinking. He had a jerry can full of gasoline, which he proceeded to pour onto himself, and then he lit himself on fire. He was suffering from depression due to his employment status. The next few days in my school bus, he was the talk of the school. I talked to the man's kid about it, and they responded, "Yay, dad's dead." I mean, it is kind of sad, but those kids had no love for their dad. You could see the burn marks from his melted sandals for a few days on top of the manhole where he burnt himself. Edit, grammar error. This happened when my mom was in school. A middle school girl told the gym teacher she couldn't run because she had a heart condition. The gym teacher made her run anyways, and she died right there on the track. Man, that gym teacher should be ashamed of themselves. Girl next to me was my partner for French class. The next year she was dating someone from another local school district and apparently snapped after a breakup with her. Went to her house with a shotgun and killed her on the doorstep. He later on in a standoff with police at his own house and shot himself in the room. The funeral was just awful. She had a huge support group of friends, and almost the entire high school showed up to pay their respects. It's incredibly sobering being at a funeral for someone younger than you. She was a very sweet girl, incredibly quiet, but never would hurt anyone or anything. We've had 2 suicides in the last year. One was a 13-year-old kid who was found dead after dying in his sleep. They never released the method, but we were all told it was suicide. That was rough. as it was the first deaf we'd had in our school in about 10 years. The other was 15, and about 8 months later, he took an overdose at a party and phoned his friends and his mom to say goodbye before getting into a taxi. His mom found him in the back of the taxi, and he was in a coma for 2 days before he passed away. He was super popular, a gymnast, a football player, a drummer, but he'd been hiding his depression from everyone. His uncle was one of the deputy heads, who specifically moved to our school to be closer to his family. It was horrible. Back in high school, a student died unexpectedly in his sleep. Half a year later, the same thing happened to a teacher. And one of my former college classmates died in a car accident 2 years ago. In elementary school, about 20 years ago, jawbreakers were an up-and-coming candy, kind of frowned upon by everyone as they were a huge choking hazard. The main ones were about 3 centimeters. So kids would buy and eat these in secrecy. The gas station 50 meters from my school sold them, basically to anyone. So this one day, a girl from my class went to the bathroom too, which we would later find out she could eat one of those jawbreakers. Instead, she started to choke on it, causing her to fall down and smash her head on the toilet seat. She passed right there on the spot. Another girl from the class found her a few minutes later. That when she didn't come back, we were about 7 or 8 at the time, so the realization of what actually happened was not really there. But we knew something really bad just happened. It was all over the news and was a hot topic at the school for many years after. Oh, there were several. I guess the most gruesome was the one where one of the teachers got stabbed multiple times by her ex-husband in front of the school gates. Multiple children, aged 7 to 10, were watching. She collapsed, bled out, and died on her way to the hospital. It took them 2 weeks to remove the blood stain from school grounds. Dude got 2 decades in jail. Apparently she kicked him to the curb because he wasn't all there. They left 2 beautiful children. I hope he rots in hell. In my senior year of high school, our principal killed himself in his garage. Carbon monoxide poisoning. As you guessed, the whole school was completely broken at his loss. He was also committed to the students and loved his job. The sweetest man you ever meet. There was an incident a few weeks later where someone who was not a student brought a gun to the school function, and there was a lot of controversy about it. Makes me wonder if his job may have been on the line, and having loved his job so much, killed himself as an alternative to being fired. Very sad. I know of a few deaths in my previous schools. The first was in secondary school, ages 11 to 16, where a boy had been suffering from a chronic illness. I can't remember what exactly, suddenly passed away one weekend. The school planted a bush that flowered in his favorite color, yellow, because he was so happy, in his honor. He was a really lovely guy. We all mourned his loss, even those who didn't really know him well. The other 2 were 2 girls who were part of the running team at my 6th form, ages 16 to 18. I didn't know them, but my closest friend at the time did because she ran with them. But what happened was during a warm-up for running practice, the group would normally run about a mile around the surrounding estate. These 2 girls went together. As they were running down a road, a drunk driver, military on leave, lost control while speeding around 15 miles per hour in a 30 miles per hour zone and hit them, but they both died. Again, the school planted a memorial tree as a tribute and held an on-site memorial service for those that knew them. It's sad and very sobering when someone so young dies early, especially when you're at the same age at the time. It makes you realize how fragile we really are. There have been a few. A girl who was supposed to graduate with us this year died of leukemia when we were in 6th grade. She was very sweet and a close friend of mine. A boy about to enter his senior year accidentally shot himself in the face while cleaning his gun. A boy in my class, also supposed to graduate, huffed aerosol and died. A boy who had transferred to a different school in our county was playing chicken, where a car drives toward you and you jump away at the last second and got hit and killed. A freshman was pinned behind a delivery truck and bled to death. A boy in my class was shot. A girl who was actually a grade below me but did PLC was going to graduate this year, overdosed and was abandoned in a car. Her grandparents, who she lived with, found her, still in the car the next morning, dead and alone in the driveway. In 5th grade, a well-liked girl suddenly stopped showing up to class. We learned through our parents that she was staying with her adult sister when her ex-boyfriend broke in and beat them both to death. It was a shit way to die. Classes ground to a halt for a few days because we were a small class and everyone knew her. 2 deaths. One was a kid I hung out with at school sometimes, not close. He had committed suicide and nobody cared at all. I don't think anyone knew him besides myself and his family, obviously. Teachers said nothing at all. The other death was a very popular student who drunk drove speeding down a rural road, flipped a car and hit a tree, dead. He had just started working at my job and as well as in pizza for about a week. So I knew him, but obviously not well. The entire school was in mourning. It was the total opposite of my school acquaintance. Kids crying in the hallways, an assembly to announce the funeral, teachers would let kids out of class early, etc. Most kids just faking it for attention. I only felt bad for his actual friends, some of which I do call friends myself. His mom went on crusade to try and get teens banned from driving cars. It wasn't a popular idea. Edit. There was another. I'd only thought of students. My school days are a long time ago. A science teacher had lost his child to cancer. He fell into depression. He stopped teaching his regular classes. I guess the school put him on light duty of sorts. He just ran the computer labs and assisted other teachers. He looked completely lost in a brain fog for a few months, very slow to respond. Then he committed suicide. A student hung himself on a tree by the school entrance during third period. The body was moved by the time classes ended. A few days after, I happened to hear people from his class talking about how annoying he was to everyone and cringy stuff he had done. This is awfully sad, and many people have this fear that after I die, people will only be relieved. I hope the student rests in peace. When I was in 7th grade, one of 2 Latin teachers in our middle school committed suicide. No one knew how to tell us at the time, so they just said she passed away. Nothing got done in any of the classes that day, and it was right before Thanksgiving break. They didn't confirm it was suicide until a few weeks later, but I was just told from my drum teacher who worked for the school that they all knew. Apparently it just came out of nowhere. Nobody knew that she had been dealing with or was planning or even suspected anything, likely because she was one of most teachers that was most liked at the time. Seeing 7th graders consoling teachers was a wild sight, because they lost a friend and co-worker too. My high school had 5 people die in separate intoxicated driving accidents. 2 brothers were shot a year apart, which is unusual in the quiet suburban neighborhood. 1 kid raped and killed in his underage neighbor, and several overdosed. I was only there for 2 years.